Hello, and welcome to the Geeks with Wives podcast, episode 150. Cannot believe it. I feel like I've been here for forever, but really, just a few episodes. But, my goodness, 150 episodes. What does that mean to you guys, first of all?
It means I need to do math and go back and see how many episodes I've actually been on, because I think I joined in like the 60s or maybe the 70s, which is funny because I was born in 87, so, you know.
I think I need to do the same. I just know it was sometime after 100.
Well, at least you have some sort of reference point. A generic reference point. First of all, I'm your host, Jeff Gordon. I'm glad you're here with us tonight. I'm joined by my co-host, Andrew Barton.
Howdy, Jeff.
Howdy, Andrew. Always good to see you. And joining us tonight is Kenny Newville. How are you, Kenny?
I'm tired. So I'm going to just submit a little apology here. I had a work event run very late, and so my voice is raspy. There was a lot of yelling. I've got a splitting headache, and I hope that I'm a joy to be around this evening.
Well, if you don't like having fun, I mean, you should be right in your element tonight.
I did not enjoy having fun, as it beat me up, and now here I am on the podcast having not more fun because I'm tired. I'm tired.
Well, you'll be our MVP tonight, Kenny. You're just braving it. You're toughing it out, and we appreciate you being on. Tonight we are going to be talking about, of course, the games that we play. We always got to talk about that. As well, we're going to be talking about some news that came out of Gamescom today. We're not going to go in depth about it, but there was one particular piece of news that just has some of us rattled. Perhaps a little furious. We'll find out. I don't know. And and then we're going to be talking about some of the games or series that we're burned out on and what the developers can do to win us back. And then to just top it all off, we're going to go over our finest memories at Geeks with Wives. So if you have some yourself and you're listening to the show, we appreciate it if you tweet at us. Tweet at Geeks with Wives. Let us know what your favorite, maybe one of your favorite shows were, or if you had a favorite article or something that happened and you really appreciated it. We would love if you would tell us. But first and foremost, let's talk about the games that we're playing. Andrew, we were talking about a game that you were playing a little bit earlier, and so, my friend, start us off. What are you playing?
Well, I'm playing Batman Arkham Origins, Jeff. It's good. It's fun. It's just not quite as good as the other two that were in the series. I think that I was telling you, at least for me personally, Arkham Asylum was great. I really, really enjoyed that. Arkham City was technically better in basically every aspect of as compared to Arkham Asylum. But when you added up all the pieces, to me, it didn't surpass Arkham Asylum. It just didn't, for whatever reason, didn't connect with me in the same way. Arkham Origins, I think, is not connecting with me in the same way, and it's actually technically not as good. So I'm just not enjoying it as much. It's still a good game. I'm just not sure it's a great game. I would recommend it to someone who is a hardcore Batman fan. But if you ask me, I played Arkham City and really loved it, but I don't really care about Batman. Should I play Arkham Origins? I'm not sure that I would recommend it to you. It good, not great.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I played it on the Wii U, and actually I had a terrifying moment on that version of the game because apparently there's like a bug in the game and it like freezes maybe halfway through it, and you can't get it unstuck. But somehow it worked out for me. Like I had to like replay the mission several times and it finally worked out. But yeah, I totally agree. There's just something about the game that seems off. Like maybe it's just the fact that there's not really a whole lot new that they're introducing.
Maybe it was the fact that you played it on the Wii U.
Oh, Kenny. You
I
can't
had to get that
say
in there.
that.
I had to get that in there. It's expected of me. It's expected of me. It's not even my true feelings of the matter. Like, I'd rather have a Wii U than an Xbox One right now, but I just feel like I'd be letting the people down
You know,
if I did.
Kenny, as someone who's playing it not on the Wii U, on the PS3, I'm gonna side with Jeff on this one. It's missing that je ne sais quoi, you know.
I know what it is. It's called fun. And I tried to play it too. I bought the first one, Arkham Asylum, and then I bought Arkham City at the same time actually. And I cracked open Arkham Asylum and started playing it, and then I went back and returned Arkham City like that day. I don't really care about Batman, although I like the movies, and I would argue that Batman, along with like Iron Man, are probably my two favorite superheroes. If I'm allowed to have favorite superheroes, and I just felt like it did not later, and I think that's probably your problem too, right, Andrew? Is that you're playing it a little bit later?
You know, I don't think so. I think that there's a quality that was in Arkham Asylum that I liked that was slightly diminished in Arkham City, and then is slightly diminished again in Arkham Origins.
Ouch.
So there was something about being in Arkham Asylum where you actually kind of had. I mean, it by no means was it a horror game, but at the same time, you're trapped on an island full of crazy people who are trying to kill you, and you're just traipsing back and forth and systematically taking them out one by one. But it all had this feeling of, even though it was big, it had this feeling of being trapped and contained. In Arkham City, just due to the nature of open world games where, you know, everything has to be bigger and badder, you have to expand the world, and this bigger is 12 times larger than the last one in the series, and that kind of stuff. Arkham City got so big that you no longer had that feeling of confinement, like there was no escape. I mean, ostensibly there was a wall around the entire city, and you were quote unquote trapped in there, but it was so big you never felt trapped. In Arkham Origins, that's kind of the same thing for me. I don't feel like I'm becoming as familiar with the locations that I'm running around. I'm running to points on a map, and I check the map constantly because I'm not bothering to learn the environment. Whereas in Arkham Asylum, I knew exactly when someone said, go to this building, I knew exactly what building they were talking about, how to get there, and that kind of stuff. Here it's just, follow the little radar, follow the little radar. So it's just not connecting in that same way, I think. And that feeling of, confinement, I think, is a little bit of what I'm missing from Arkham Asylum. Hopefully they get things straightened out for Arkham Knight or whatever, but I think that it will probably be like Arkham City, technically better, but maybe not connect to Andrew as well as the first one, for whatever that's worth. I mean, you know.
I like the boss battles in it. I recall enjoying those. I mean, it's been a while since I've played it, but I do remember that being a high point for me in that game.
The boss battles were really fun. I actually was trying to go through the boss battle with what's his name? Deathstroke. Where I always want to say Deadpool. Deathstroke. Sorry, Casey. Sorry, Geeks with Wives and Capes. The one was patterned off of the other, so hopefully they'll forgive me. But I was trying to go through the battle with Deathstroke and not fail a counter, which was very, very hard. Eventually I did it, and got the stupid bronze trophy. But it was a lot of fun to finally accomplish it. The hour and a half leading up to it, maybe not as much fun, but
Well, I applaud you for just toughing it out and getting to the game. You know.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know what's good for me, so.
Yeah. And I will say one other highlight of that game is the job that Troy Baker does as the Joker. He does a phenomenal job, and I mean there are moments where if you're listening closely, like like okay, that definitely sounds like there's just like a little different tone to the voice.
Mhm.
But I mean, if you're not paying attention, and if you didn't even know, like you wouldn't even notice it. Like he does such a wonderful job as the Joker, and I mean he sounds frightening.
He sounds very, very similar to Mark Hamill's Joker.
Mhm.
Very, very good. So if the baton has to be passed, I am perfectly okay with it being passed to Troy Baker.
Oh yeah.
I think that he did a great job. Yeah.
He is on fire right now, and he also did a voice for a game that I just finished playing earlier or later last week, and that is The Last of Us remastered for the PlayStation 4.
He was in that game, yeah.
Yeah,
I like the segue.
Oh yeah, well I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Yeah, I tweeted last week that it wasn't a masterpiece, but it was definitely very, 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 very good.
To which I responded immediately that you're incorrect, and it is, in fact, a masterpiece.
Yes. It's all coming back to me, Kenny. It's all coming back to me. Yeah, I guess for people that don't know my experience with, like, PlayStation 3 games, I had no experience with PlayStation 3 games because I didn't own a PlayStation 3. And so it wasn't like I was going back and playing this game and revisiting it. Under a new glossy finish, if you will. The last I saw of this game was back in 2012 when they had the gameplay. They showed off the gameplay for The Last of Us, and I just remember like being amazed at how well the AI responded to your player. Like, there was a point where the main character, Joel, who is voiced by Troy Baker, that's who we're talking about, his gun runs out of ammo. So the guy hears, the bad guy hears the click, and he goes, "Oh, I know that sound." And he starts charging after you, like with his weapon. And I was like, man, like that is a cool concept. And that's really what they presented. Like, it wasn't the story necessarily, and the story is incredible, but they presented the gameplay, and so that's really what hooked me back in 2012. And of course, like, it's not like I've been under a rock. I've heard incredible things about the game, and I would say 95% of what I've heard I would agree with. But there were just some things that I didn't enjoy, and it has to do with the AI. There were points, and maybe it's probably just my experience with the game, but there were points to where like the AI would disappear into the ground, or they would like end up in a wall, or they would just charge at me with the baseball bat from across the room, even though I had a shotgun. Like, there were just some, like, it didn't provide me with what I thought I was going to get. And maybe if I just played it in the normal difficulty, so maybe, I don't know, have you guys played it in a harder difficulty? Does it change, or what was your experience with it?
I had one playthrough of the game, and I played it on normal difficulty. And I plan on picking up the remastered version at some point in time and getting a little bit more in depth with it. Currently, my dad still has my original copy. And I didn't have very many technical problems. I mean, there was a clipping issue here and there, and there was maybe once or twice where I felt like something shouldn't have spotted me. But again, I felt it even only because I had died. Like, when it happened, I was more like, oh hell, and less, Oh, that's game breaking, man. I'm playing a game in my living room at night. No, it wasn't that. It was oh crap, this thing is coming after me. I was still immersed. It wasn't a game breaking bug. Only
Yeah.
after I died did I realize, was I just sitting there during the load screen, or whatever. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know if he should have seen me or whatever. I don't think that the game had that many issues, at least in my playthrough. But then again, you are playing on a different console. It was ported, regardless of whether it's an up-res and improved version. It was ported, and so I can't wait to give it a try myself.
Yeah.
That would kind of stink if they broke a game that wasn't broken in order to port it. Speaking from my experience, I played it through on hard mode, and then I played it on New Game Plus on hard mode again. And I don't think that I had any kind of really AI problems like that. There were times where I thought that they shouldn't have known I was there or something like that, but usually I was able to rationalize that with, I must have made a sound or something, since they're all supposed to have like superhuman hearing powers. But I honestly didn't really have any kind of the AI troubles or glitches that you seem to be reporting, Jeff. That's really unfortunate.
Well, and I think that is more comforting for me, if anything, because I would much rather be wrong about this game and know that it is, everything that everybody said it was. And I will probably play it again, even though, like, I know that it won't be the same experience, like knowing everything that's going to happen, story-wise. And I'll touch on that real fast. I mean, I think it's probably been said, 1,000 times by now, but I mean, the story was incredible, and I did not see that ending coming. And we won't spoil it, but I did not see what happened at the end coming. And so, yeah, overall, I would say if you haven't played the game before and you own a PlayStation 4, I would definitely get it, because it's kind of sad to say, but I feel like it is the best game on the PlayStation 4 right now, even though it was originally a PlayStation 3 game. So, or, if you're in Kenny's boat and you just want, somebody is not giving you your Last of Us PlayStation 3 copy back, and you want to experience it on the PlayStation 4, go for it. I endorse your spending of money on the Last of Us remastered for the PlayStation 4.
Though I don't feel terrible about spending for, because I do feel like it's up-resed. I do want to go through it again, and I definitely want to go through it again with a heightened experience. It's not something that I'm necessarily interested in going through again if I know there's something better out there, which is exactly why here in a week I'm going to be buying Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil Edition, even though I've got Diablo 3 for PC right down here, and I've got Diablo 3 for the PS3 right out there, and I talked about this a little bit last week, and God, Blizzard, stop stealing my money, like just stop. But I feel like I'm spending a lot of money. I'm being drawn to spend a lot of money on games that I've already played, but that are coming out for the new and shiny console, and the controller that I like, and the share button, I'm kind of getting tired of that, though. And I think Diablo might be my last one for a while, and I might pick up The Last of Us once it gets a little bit cheaper towards the Christmas season. But I'm really ready for that new IP. Let me tell you what.
Well,
yeah, it seems to me. It seems to me a little bit that everyone was in such a rush to get the new consoles out the door, they forgot to actually make any games for it. So we're getting a bunch of ports of the greatest hits of the PS3, Xbox 360, and just to fill time.
I mean, I guess it depends on if you classify how you classify games. If you say games, I can't speak to the Xbox One. I don't have one. I don't have enough time to follow consoles that I don't have right now. So maybe someone else can answer this, but for the PlayStation 4, I don't feel like there's any lack of games. I feel like there's a distinct lack of AAA experiences, and the $60 price tag that we've become so used to over the course of the last couple generations. But I mean, gosh, I've been playing the hell out of Rogue Legacy. I've picked up a couple other games. Fez on the PS4. Don't Starve was a game that I poured a lot of time into. And it's funny because I will differentiate between indie titles and AAA titles, but we can't at the end of the day discount them as games, and they are entertainment. And actually, to be fair, Rogue Legacy is probably the one game I've played more than anything else this summer, and I've loved it.
You know, Kenny, I'm not going to argue with you at all on that. PS4 has a lot of games, but every one of those games that you mentioned was at least a year old by the time it came out on the PS4, I think. So it's still porting games to a system after a long time after their original release.
I see what you mean, and I guess that puts me in the distinct position to say that it doesn't matter to me because they felt new. I have a PC that could play Rogue Legacy. I have a PC that could play Fez. But I just don't. I don't game on PC as much as I used to. I'm not invested in Steam. I've got a few games. I play some games with my friends. Civilization, obviously, you can't get that on a console experience. That being said, I guess they don't feel as stale to me because they did make such a leap. Even though technologically they actually probably made less of a leap coming to the PlayStation 4 because of the architecture. I feel like jumping from PC to consoles even is a leap, let alone Xbox 360 to PS3 or PS4 or what have you. Console game, I feel like there is a dichotomy with gamers. There are people that do everything, but I would probably venture to guess that most gamers are either console gamers or PC gamers. Now, breaking out console gamers into PS3 gamers or 360 gamers, Microsoft or Sony or Wii, Nintendo, that's one thing. But for console gamers to get a game from the PC, by that point in time, look at Rebirth Souls, for example, with the Ultimate Evil Edition. I mean, the PlayStation 4 version and the Xbox One version, when it does launch, they are supposedly going to be the literal, up-to-date, best version of the game possible, even with the PC. And so, I guess, again, is Reaper of Souls new? No. I guess it's a port, right? It came out back in spring for PC users, but it's new for console users. And I feel like that can't be discounted because of the massive jump in how you play those games. But maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. But
I am playing a little bit of devil's advocate here because I do not have anything close to a gaming capable PC. So, when I say that Rogue Legacy and Don't Starve and Fez are old games, they're still new to me. So I am playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. But I do think it's worth mentioning that we haven't seen very many actual new IP coming out for the new generation consoles. Actually, we haven't seen very many new IP at all come out for them, and really not very many new games for them that were actually made with those two systems in mind.
Well, now you say that, but interestingly enough, the Rogue Legacy developers claim they actually made Rogue Legacy for the PlayStation Vita. And they got it greenlit on Steam, or maybe it was a Kickstarter, but regardless, they put it on PC first because they knew that they'd be able to have more of an impact on the PC, which would allow them to drive it to other consoles. So technically, this is from the developers, man. They said they designed the game for the Vita. It just happened to come a year later.
That's a really long delay to get it out to the original Vision console.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying what they thought.
I don't know anything about programming. It's just ones and zeros. That's all I know. So
Hmm.
maybe it takes that long, but that just seems a little funny to me. But okay, cool.
They can't pull a fast one on you, can they, Andrew?
What do I know? I'm just some guy.
Well, Kenny, what games are you still playing? Rogue Legacy, or have you moved on to something else?
I did. I did, and I have. I have, and I did. I have been playing Rogue Legacy. I did move on to something else. We talked about Rogue Legacy pretty extensively last week, so I won't bore you with the gory details. I've leveled up a couple more times. More people have died, and now I have a dragon. But I decided a couple nights ago that I just needed something that would be relaxing, and I just been working too much. I didn't need something that was stressful. I picked up Rogue Legacy, and I was like, beep 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 beep, die. And I'm like, oh, piss on this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And so I went to the PlayStation Store and noticed that Proteus was free for PlayStation Plus. So I picked it up, downloaded it, and played it, and if you can call it that. And I pressed play. Right, X for play, and all of a sudden I'm warped to this. I'm staring at this island. I'm in the middle of water. I'm staring at this island. It looks very Minecrafty, pixelated, crazy colors though, not realistic colors. Color palette like Minecraft could be considered more dirts and greens, but this one's neons and craziness. There's this little bit of you hear water, and as you walk towards the island, you notice there's a little bit of music. As you explore this island, which by the way is randomly generated, the plants, the animals, the different terrains, I don't know. I noticed a little bit of an elevation change too. It all affects the music and it all affects the sounds of the game, and so it's very interesting. And I'm not necessarily I don't. If you're interested in playing Proteus and you don't want to have something spoiled, stop listening, I guess. I'm not gonna spoil the story, but I sat there and literally sat there because literally, okay, so you've got the move stick with the left nub. I'm playing on the Vita. Right nub is look around, and then the X button is sit. So you press the X button, you sit. Now, if you touch the screen, these little white dots appear around your finger, and I don't know what that does at this time. I do know now. And I noticed that while you're sitting, if you mess with the back touch screen, it changes the color scheme. So that's weird. If you press and hold O, or the circle button, it closes your eyes and brings you to the main menu. Right takes but that's just it. It's this is what you do. You walk around this place, and so I just walked around for 20 minutes, and I noticed that finally the sun had run its course. The moon was about to come up. Night was falling, and so I climbed a mountain, and I was like, "What am I doing? Why am I wasting my time with this game?" But then I was like, "You know what? No, Kenny, you wanted a relaxing game, and this is about as put you to sleep as you could possibly get, so keep going." So I'm standing at the top of the mountain, and I see these little antlered dudes, statue things standing at the top of the mountain. I'm just chilling with those guys, what's up? And there's stars, shooting stars, and the clouds are rolling by, and they're a little bit lower than the mountain, so the clouds roll by, and and then all of a sudden I see this little ring light up in this distant field, so I'm like, what the hell is that? So I go over there, jump in the middle of the ring, all of a sudden all these things swirl around me, and day and night cycles crazy, and then there's another little ring, and I step into that ring, and it changes the seasons. So it goes to the next season, so you go to fall. And I'm like, whoa, so this is kind of cool. Well, anyways, the game, I'm telling you this again, spoilers, but I would not have stuck around had I not just been bored out of my mind and really needing something to get my mind off of work and everything. But it's really weird. The point of the game is literally just to go through the seasons and see how the seasons change. As a matter of fact, there's 3 trophies for completing the game 3 times through, and apparently the endings are all different. And the endings aren't astounding. They just are what they are. So end of spoilers. Not that if you paused it, or if you're listening live and I guess you can't know, but we're done. But it's one of those games that you just kind of have to experience, and a lot of people are going to hate it. A lot of people are going to be turned off by it. This isn't a game. This is stupid. But it's an experience. And you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this because there was times when I was just I'm bored. But I think it was kind of cool. And all in all, you can do it if you know what you're doing. If you listen to what I just told you, if you know what to look for, you can do it in about an hour. Pick up a couple trophies. I will tell you right now that those trophies are very lyrical, and looking at the descriptions will help you. And you are going to be working on them for a long time. You can't just you're not just going to randomly run into opening these trophies. But definitely if you have a Vita and you're into music or you're into the indie scene, you want to feel like a hipster, check out Proteus and definitely give it a run through. It was definitely interesting.
Oh, well, I mean, I just want to clarify real fast. Is it a PlayStation Plus game?
It was free for PlayStation Plus. I thought that I just saw it a minute ago when I checked the store. It should still be free this week. Yeah, it's for the whole month, right, Andrew? We talked about this, right? So all the PlayStation Plus stuff is now week 1, all for the whole month, free. So Metrico, I can't connect to the server. Thanks, PSN. So Metrico is free. That, of course, just released. So is Proteus. There's a couple other discounts in there. Some of the stuff. Dragon's Crown is still free. Fez is still free.
Dragon's Crown was new, so you can get it on PS3 and Vita. Like everything that they had, they only had 6 games, but they were all I think of the 6 games, 4 of them were cross-buy between PS3 and Vita, and I think 3 of them were, or maybe just 2 of them were cross-buy with PS4 as well. So I mean, you can play all the games freaking everywhere, but
Proteus says just free off to the right, just in white. Usually if it's PS Plus, it's in yellow with a strike through on the white version of the original price. Maybe it's because I've already downloaded it and it just says free. I don't know. But if you're interested in it, and I tell people this all the time, every time it comes up, and so do a lot of other people. If you have PS Plus, just go onto your consoles, update them once a week, go in there, click download, cancel the download. It's in your cart. You've bought the game. As long as you have PS Plus, you've got the game. So definitely, it's definitely worth your time just to go over there and just download.
And you only need to do that once a month now. So.
And now you only need to do it once a month, much to my dismay. I'm gonna have to actually caution myself now. I don't like that, Andrew. As conservative as I am, I kind of feel like I need big government on my PSN side to kind of tell me, no, Kenny, you can only consume this much product at this time. And I'm like, okay, thanks, appreciate it. Because now my excitement is like the wind's taken out of my sails. I'm like, oh, it's another Tuesday. Thank God, I'm gonna check my I already did this.
Yeah, nothing free. They'll still have weekly sales and stuff, but you only get the free stuff once a month. The first Tuesday of the month to the first Tuesday of the next month. So, yeah, it's a little disheartening, I think, because it seems like maybe we're not getting as much free stuff. Just because I think that maybe they averaged 6 games a month previously. And now they're just straight up, yeah, it's going to be 6 games.
And that's cool. I mean, the Steam had to run out sometime, right? I was curious as to how many times, when people literally stop buying new releases because they know, it's going to come to PS Plus. Yeah, that'll be PS Plus in 6 months. Well, it's not really the point of it. I mean, if you want to play that market, by all means, that's the market you're playing in. But I feel like PS Plus for me was always, hey, that was a game that slipped under the cracks. Let me pick that up. Let me try that. And for one of those was Spec Ops: The Line. And I know, Grant hates the game. Well, Grant, sorry, you don't have any intellect, I guess. But I found Spec Ops: The Line to be fantastic. I almost went out and bought the game to support the developers, because, but then PS Plus also supports the developers. But I just felt like I had kind of cheated the system. Now, don't get me wrong, I have a kid and I work a full-time job. I'm a nonprofit. I want free stuff, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, all right, Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil Edition is going to be PS Plus in 70 years, so I'm just going to wait. So I mean, just buy what you want when you can. Obviously you need some money, but
Yeah, I totally agree with you. PlayStation Plus for me is just an opportunity to play games that are very different, and I may not have been willing to just outright purchase, or like you said, just like they just kind of slipped under the cracks for me. I totally agree with that, and so I have to pick Proteus. I want to check it out. I want to see what it's all about.
Do
well,
it.
You know, talking about waiting on games, I mean, I have not gotten Knack yet or Tearaway yet because I'm kind of expecting both of them to be free at some point on the PlayStation Plus. So I am exactly the guy that you're talking about, Kenny.
Well, Knack. I don't know about Knack. I'm waiting for Knack too, but I'm not really waiting for it. It's just if it comes, I'll get it. But
yeah.
Tearaway is actually a pretty good segue, if I may, Jeff. Segue for you.
Just do it.
No,
Just
I'm not
do
doing
it.
No, I can't do this any more than I'm just gonna give it to you. I'm gonna softball it up. So Tearaway could be a very interesting PS Plus giveaway because Jeff.
Because they just announced that Tearaway is coming to the PlayStation 4 today at Gamescom.
Womp, womp, womp.
Did I slam dunk it for you?
That was all-ooped and just slam dunk. You had your Michael Jordans on, your Air Jordans. You had those pumped up.
I did.
So instead, I kind of doubt that they will give it away now, at least for a while, just because why are they going to give it away and then immediately undercut the sales of the new version coming out?
But if I'm not mistaken, it's a new version, right, for PlayStation 4 with some new features. Now I don't know this, but here's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
My marketing side. I would give it away on Vita.
Well, my
You bought it. You're not going to. And so all you're doing is increasing people's likelihood of increasing people's exposure to the Tearaway universe and increasing people's likelihood of enjoying it and saying, hey, you know what, that wasn't bad. I'm going to go out and buy this one for PS4.
My understanding is that the PS4 version coming out is a remastered edition, if you will. So it would be like them having Last of Us Remastered Edition coming out on PS4 and shortly beforehand giving away the PS3 version on PlayStation Plus. I just don't really see that happening because I think the amount of people that would say, oh, yay, I'm going to go buy that version would be strongly undercut by the amount of people who said, well, I would have bought the remastered version, but you just gave me the regular version for free, so why do I need the remastered version now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I haven't been able to pay attention to Gamescom as much as I'd like because of work. So Sony, if you're listening, this goes back to our earlier conversation. Cut this port bull hockey. All right? Quit doing that. It's on Vita. Buy a Vita. If you want to play Tearaway, buy a Vita.
I thought, speaking of Vita at Gamescom, friend of show Colin Moriarty, who you can see in episode 149 and some episode like in the 60s, he actually made the observation on Twitter that Vita actually has less exclusives now than it did 24 hours ago, which is not really the idea coming out of a major press conference. You're supposed to reveal more exclusives, not take away the exclusives you already have. But Vita had several games that were announced to be ported to the PS4, etc., which is basically just undercutting any kind of momentum they can get on that system. So last week, Colin was talking about how he felt that basically the system is already dead, and I think coming out of Gamescom, Sony kind of said, yeah, it's basically dead. Kind of sad to me, but
yeah, it's definitely there to support the PlayStation 4 now, whether that's through remote play or if that's going to be with them pushing this PlayStation TV or maybe even PlayStation Now. It's simply there to support their big gun, which is PlayStation 4. So yeah, that is disappointing. And it's disappointing for me because I bought one just several months ago, because I was so excited about just the games that it had, and just what I thought was the potential for continued great games on that. But yeah, I mean, it is very disappointing to see where that has gone.
I think, Jeff, that you will continue to see great games come to the Vita, but those great games will already be able to, or will shortly be able to, be found on another platform. If it's not like Rogue Legacy and the like, where it's already on PC, it's going to be instead like Tearaway, where they are porting it to PS4 some 9 months later. So, I don't know. I still enjoy mine. I like mine for whatever it's worth. I just think it's a shame that we can't kind of dedicate having some games to it and letting games be built around kind of that system.
Yeah. You got to quit breaking our hearts, Sony. Got to stop this. And just to clarify, we love Sony, we love PlayStation, and so we're not bashing them at all, but it is the reality that they're seemingly giving up on what I consider to be a very great handheld, and so it is very unfortunate. And something else, some other news was breaking some hearts today, and that is that Tomb Raider, the Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is the sequel to the latest rebooted Tomb Raider, is going to be exclusively on the Xbox One. Not going to be on the PlayStation 4, at least. And that's what I want to talk about. Do you guys think that it's just they're getting the game first on Xbox One, or do you think that this is just it? It's only going to be there.
So it's been kind of confusing following some of the reports coming out of it. Everyone's immediate response seemed to be, oh, it's just a timed exclusive. And then people started talking about it. No, it's not just a timed exclusive. Apparently, at least some of the powers that be feel it is an actual exclusive. It will only be on Xbox One. It will not be anyplace else. And then just before the show started, I read something that basically some of the people at Crystal Dynamics, the development studio behind basically every Tomb Raider game ever, said that they think it's going to be just a timed exclusive, but they can't say just a timed exclusive, so instead they're just saying exclusive until they're allowed to say, yeah, it's also going to come someplace else 6 months later. Honestly, I have no idea what it's going to be at this point. I think it is a little bit of a shame just because I was actually really looking forward to it, and I'm not going to get a console just for that one game. If Xbox One ends up getting several other games I'm interested in, then I would absolutely get one. But they actually have to get several other games that I'm interested in. And right now, it's not really looking that way. There's been a lot of uproar about this on the internet, Jeff. Have you been seeing some of that?
Yeah, I've been seeing a ton of uproar, and I would... If it indeed is just going to be an exclusive just with Xbox One and you never get it on your PlayStation 4, I feel that is deserved uproar because a lot of people probably bought Tomb Raider 1 for the PlayStation 3 or even for the PlayStation 4. They released the definitive edition. I actually did a review on that. If you want to read it, you're more than welcome to. But it is odd because the big news about the definitive edition was that it was better on the PlayStation 4. It looked like they spent more time with it. There were more frames per second. It was higher resolution. and Crystal Dynamics had just so many great things to say about the PlayStation 4. It seems odd that they went this direction, but I have a little bit of a theory, and that is that in 2015, Uncharted 4 is slated to release. And I wonder if those games are just too similar, because they definitely patterned Tomb Raider, the reboot Tomb Raider, off of the Uncharted series. So I wonder if, Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix, who publishes the game, I wonder if they're just maybe waiting it out and seeing when it is the Uncharted 4 is going to drop. If it's going to be in 2015 or 2016.
I don't know about that line of thinking, though, because aren't these titles, in the grand scheme of things, chew up and spit out titles? All right, so the last Tomb Raider multiplayer was abysmal, terrible, horrible, heart-wrenchingly bad. Like, it hurt. And I wanted that platinum so bad. And the only things I have left to do are the multiplayer trophies, and I'll never, ever do it. If you're listening and you're a developer, do not put painful multiplayer trophies in your games. I will sell them back on purpose. Now, I haven't done that with the Tomb Raider. This is going forward. That has been added to the list of things I will do. So in other words, Tomb Raider, let's be real. Either they're going to learn from their mistakes and develop a better multiplayer, or chances are they're not, and it's going to be crap, or hopefully they'll just stick to what they're good at, which is single player, and it's still a chew up and spit out experience. And then you've got Uncharted. And I would wager the majority of the people who have played Uncharted probably don't stick around much longer for the multiplayer. So again, I feel like these two games, as long as they didn't come out within the same month even, I feel like they could live prosperously together. I don't feel like they would be eating too much at each other. Now, that being said, the funny part about all this is I didn't actually know this until I came on the show tonight, that this was an exclusive. And my thoughts are similar to Andrew's, except for I'm going to take it a step further. I don't care. I loved the Tomb Raider remake. I thought it was great, the single player, in case you didn't catch my multiplayer rant. I thought it was great. I liked how female protagonist who is believable. Yeah, of course, she's, got all the right curves, because, God forbid. But I felt like, as far as female characters go in video games, I felt like she was very a good example of the direction that the industry needs to go. I felt like the game was fun. I felt like it was intriguing. It kept me going the whole time. And I was looking forward to the next one. But if that's the game they want to play, then let them play that game. And I tell you what, if it's not a timed exclusive, it's Squeenix who's losing out here. It's the developers, because they're not going to put it on the most prominent next-gen platform on the market, and they're not going to do it. I'm thinking out loud here. I think it's a mistake for them, but you live in the
I think there's a couple things that we can take away from this. First off, the remastered Tomb Raider, what are the definitive edition?
Yes.
I think up to 70% of the sales were actually on PS4, which is really indicative of who is actually supporting kind of the Tomb Raider franchise, at least on a consumer basis. Then we can also look at the fact that there are more PS4s out there than Xbox Ones. Now, what the situation will be over a year from now, we don't really know, but we can kind of look at trends and say that it's probably going to be the same, if not the gap is going to be wider in the favor of PS4 as opposed to Xbox One, at least from where we are today on August 12th. Now, so it would seem like if Square Enix is going to side with one of those two houses, they would go with PlayStation as opposed to Xbox, just because of those two facts alone. But I think that it's Jeff, you were kind of getting at Uncharted. I think that Microsoft, looking at this situation, says Sony is actually trouncing us in terms of consoles moved at this point in time. And we know that next year we're going to get a big game from basically Sony's most critically acclaimed studio. And that game is going to be very similar to Tomb Raider. So I wonder if Microsoft viewed this as an opportunity to kind of compete with Sony and try to offer a similar game, and hopefully in Microsoft's eyes, hopefully a similar and better game, and try to draw in people that way. The only way I can see this working financially for Square and for Crystal Dynamics is if Microsoft just gave them a buttload of money. Considering how the original Tomb Raider sold 6 million units, and they said that they weren't really happy with those sales, and now we're looking at the Xbox One, which hasn't sold 6 million consoles yet. That is pretty limiting to to the actual install base there, and the amount of people who can actually get the new Tomb Raider. So I think that that's the only way that Square is going to come out financially successful from this partnership is if they get a bunch of money from Xbox for it being a console exclusive. So I'm going to take a little bit of a left-hand turn here, but I just want to get your guys' reaction to this. How did you guys feel about the Bayonetta 2 announcement that it was going to be exclusive to the Wii U some year and a half, 2 years ago?
Well, I guess I'll go first on that one. I toyed with Bayonetta 1. It's not my style of game. I've never completed a Devil May Cry game. It's not that they don't appeal to me specifically, that genre. It's just they don't appeal to me now. I don't feel like they have. I don't know. I don't have the time I once did. But great, wonderful, grand. It's my understanding that the Bayonetta may have been. I'm saying this. I'm shooting from the hip here. It's my understanding that Bayonetta. It came out on the Wii, didn't it?
No, the original Bayonetta did not.
Did it not? So what the hell are they doing putting it on the Wii U? I don't know. I don't care.
No, I think that I think it's good for the Wii U. It doesn't make sense because you have people that are already invested in that franchise, and maybe they're already invested in the brand of Xbox, and it wasn't an exclusive for the Xbox, was it? I thought it came out for PlayStation.
It came out for the Xbox 360 and a kind of terrible port on the PS3.
Okay.
And then no version whatsoever on the Wii. But now the Bayonetta 2 is going to be a Wii U exclusive with no versions on any other platforms.
Yeah. And I would say that if I would just have just not heard that, I would say probably not the best idea for Platinum Games who makes that. But I will say that I do like knowing this now. I do like that they are going to include the first Bayonetta if you buy it.
Yes.
And that's what I was just looking up is that, so that defeats the install base argument too. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that the Bayonetta thing is okay, but I have some misgivings about the Tomb Raider thing, and I'll explain to you guys why I have this apparent discord here. But Bayonetta 2 was not going to be made. It just simply was not going to happen. Platinum Games wanted to make it, but it did not sell well enough, and they could not get a publisher for it. Sega technically owns the rights to Bayonetta, and they were not interested in funding a second game. Nintendo, recognizing the fact that they did not have very many games coming, went to Platinum Games and Sega and said, we will cover the development costs for you guys to make Bayonetta 2, with the understanding that it would be exclusive to Nintendo because Nintendo is paying for it. So, since Nintendo actually funded the development costs, they got the exclusivity for a game that would not have existed had Nintendo not done this. The Tomb Raider situation, as I understand it, is quite different. That game was going to be made, and it was going to be made for everybody. But then Microsoft, presumably, offered a truckload of money in order for it to be an exclusive. So the reason why I think it's okay for Bayonetta but not for Tomb Raider is because Bayonetta 2 wouldn't exist had someone not done this, whereas with Tomb Raider it was clearly going to happen regardless of whether or not someone did this, and they basically purchased it like it were an auction or something.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I have some misgivings about the Tomb Raider thing, but I am actually okay and supportive of the Bayonetta 2 thing.
Yeah. So we'll take a quick bet. Does Tomb Raider stay exclusive to Xbox, or does it change? Does it go to the PlayStation 4 eventually? I say it goes to the PlayStation 4 eventually. Andrew, what do you say?
I think if I had to put money down, I would say it would go to the PlayStation 4 eventually.
Okay. Kenny?
Well, gentlemen, we don't have a bet then, because I think that it will go to the PlayStation 4 eventually. I mean, it's got to be a timed exclusive. Either that, or maybe it's not what we think it is. Perhaps it's not what we think it is. Maybe it's like it's not necessarily the sequel so much as it's a smaller game that just happens to take place after Tomb Raider between the next-gen Tomb Raider, which will launch later on. Who knows? We've seen that before.
So you're saying this is going to be Tomb Raider: The Phantom Pain?
I'm saying that this is I'm saying that this is going to be what wasn't the Phantom Pain, was it? Was that the Phantom Pain?
Metal Gear Solid?
The Phantom Pain is the next.
Okay. Ground Zeroes?
Ground Zeroes. Thank you. I'm saying that this is going to be Ground Zeroes. That's what I'm saying. Well, but not nearly to the extent of Ground Zeroes. Let's be real. But I think it's going to do exactly what Ground Zeroes did, which is what it's going to fill a place. And I don't know that. Who knows? But we've seen it before. Would it really be that crazy? Because right now, as from where I'm sitting, I think it's absolutely insane that they're going to be doing this on Microsoft's console. Microsoft could not give them enough money. They literally could not.
Microsoft would almost have to basically give them the amount of money that they would make for 4 or 5 million games, just to make up for that differential. I mean, and the reason why I say 4 or 5 million games is because I'm assuming that 20 or 30% of Xbox One people will buy it, which would be about 1 or 2 million, and they needed 6 million to even kind of be lukewarm about the previous game. So that's like a 4 or 5 million differential. Yeah. So is Microsoft actually going to give them enough money for like that much? And I'm using terrible math, and I know nothing about the industry. I'm just making up numbers here, I guess. But I mean, that's a lot of money for Microsoft to give Square Enix. I don't know that they could float that.
Not to mention that let's step back for a minute here. Look at these PlayStation 4 exclusives. Most of them are system sellers. And so you're going to have a bigger install base. You're going to have a bigger console install base once this game does finally roll around. Let's say Uncharted is up against Tomb Raider. I'm going to tell you right now that it's going to do it more good than harm, because there are going to be people that buy a PlayStation 4 specifically for Uncharted 4 and just might be like, you know what? I'm going to buy Tomb Raider. I'm on PS4.
Yeah. Hey, I totally agree. I think that that is definitely a possibility. But I'm going to be interested in 2015 to see who was right, who was wrong, if it was just Rise of the Tomb Raider Ground Zeroes, like Kenny says it's going to be. Hey, it's more Tomb Raider for somebody. So now this is something I wanted to touch on real quick. There's a lot of games that are being announced at Gamescom, a lot of ongoing series, and I just wanted to know: are there any series that you are burned out on, and you are needing some change? So, what are you burned out on, guys, and what can those developers do to get you interested back in that particular series? Kenny, go first.
Wow, that's a tough one. I can think of a few series that I'd like to see kick back up a little bit more than we have in recent months and maybe even a couple of years. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. It isn't necessarily maybe the best example for me, but I think it's something that a lot of people will say here. It's Resident Evil. Resident Evil has been crap, right? Rev 4 was awesome. Although I tried to play the HD version of it on the PS3 and I could not. I know a lot of people did, but I really liked my experience. I actually played it on my Wii with the GameCube disc and a GameCube controller. The GameCube controller, by the way, is phenomenal, and I really enjoyed it. And it was a good game. And then I played. Well, I tried to play 5. I literally think that I didn't even beat the first mission. The idea that you had to have a partner who just happened to have terrible AI, so like when you tried to use her as a pack mule, she'd use everything. That was terrible. And then Resident Evil 6, I didn't even give a shot. I played the Resident Evil for 3DS, which eventually came to everything else. But yeah, Resident Evil, man, go back to your roots. Go back to survival horror and quit this. I mean, obviously melodrama has always been a part of Resident Evil with Wesker and is this Chris's blood or whatever the hell it is, and it's always been that way. But I think that recently it's become almost too convoluted and too self-righteous for its own good. So I'd have to say Resident Evil.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because that was what I was thinking as well. Was Resident Evil. Great minds think alike, Kenny.
Well, I guess you gotta think of something better then.
No.
Host, Mr. Host with the most. I hope you have most.
Yeah, I got so much most. Man, so much most. I will just add to that and say that I am excited that they are doing the Resident Evil 1 remake, and I played it when they re-released it on the GameCube, the first Resident Evil, and it was they improved the graphics and they improved the gameplay and added some new elements to it. They added zombies that would get back up and chase after you. That was terrifying. So I want to see them go back to maybe not that kind of camera work, but it's funny that we talk about The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us did something very good, which was they weren't always giving you tons of ammo like you would experience in Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, and Resident Evil Revelations that came out on the 3DS, and as Kenny said, everything else. The Last of Us did a great job of, sometimes like all you have is a brick or a bottle, and you kind of got to throw it and distract some people and kind of sneak around them. I like that they did that in the first Resident Evil. Like, you couldn't just shoot down every single zombie. Like, you had to kind of lure them in one direction and run around them and hope that later you would have a better weapon or you could, outsmart the zombie again. I want to see it go back to that. And I think that as Resident Evil goes, so does the rest of the survival horror genre. And I think that, man, they've got to get it together. But if we're going to talk about, just for the sake of it, adding another series into the mix that needs some changing from me, and that is Assassin's Creed. I mentioned it. It was one of the first shows that I was on that I just feel burned out on Assassin's Creed. I don't know where it happened, but maybe it was between 3 and 4, and I I loved so much of Assassin's Creed 4. I like sailing around. I like a lot of the ship battles and everything like that they introduced, but at the end of the day, it just kind of felt like the same game. And I don't know, I don't know what it is exactly that they can do to improve it for me, as other than abandon the kind of weird storyline that I don't even know what's going on right now. Like, there is a civilization that existed before ours, and they're trying to get back. It just seems very convoluted. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of direction to it. So I think I would just like to see them kind of chart a course for where they want the series to go and stick to it, as opposed to just introducing us to a new, a new era and time. The French Revolution, Pirates of the Caribbean type style. Like, I don't know. Do you guys feel that way at all about this series?
Jeff, you made it further along than I did. I liked the first one. I thought the second one was great. Brotherhood was next, and Brotherhood was one of those things where, again, I thought it's technically better than 2, but for whatever reason, 2 just had that quality that made it so much better. But Brotherhood was still very enjoyable. Revelations, I started to have glitches and bugs and stuff in it, and I was starting to get a little bit frustrated. And I thought that we had just spent too much time following around this stupid Ezio guy, and I was burnt out. I didn't like it. But they fooled me once, and Assassin's Creed 3 came out, and I was so jazzed for the American Revolution period. I thought that was just going to be fantastic, so great. Was really looking forward to it. Played it, and wouldn't you know, controls were kind of wonky. There was glitches and bugs. People wouldn't show up in my stupid little village, and I got really frustrated. And I said, you know what? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I haven't played Assassin's Creed 4 yet. I intend to at some point, someday, but I think that you're right. This is honestly, to me, one of those, like, they just need to let the series lay fallow for a few years. Let people go, man, I wish there was a new Assassin's Creed game, rather than, oh, there's another Assassin's Creed game coming out this year, just like every year for the last 8 years. Let that little weight build up, and I think that they will find a lot of people get really excited about coming back to it. But if they keep going the way they are, I'm worried that they will burn out people like you and me. So I think that they just need to kind of let it relax, and then when they bring it back, make the controls not as wonky, so I'm not constantly like running up and then humping a wall. Because that's really frustrating.
I think it's time for another hard-hitting Ken Newville truth here. But, I don't know if you guys are ever going to be pleased by Assassin's Creed. What you guys are asking for, and Jeff, I think you hit the nail on the head. You don't know what you're looking for, and I don't think you do either, Andrew, unfortunately. And here's what I mean by that. Let me substantiate that. So that's kind of akin to looking at Call of Duty and saying, gee, I just really don't want a first-person shooter. Couldn't you do something a little bit different? I mean, Assassin's Creed will always be parkour, stabbing people in the neck, and stealth missions, and horrible shadow missions. Horrible.
No. That's exactly what I want. But I just want it to not be broken and buggy, and if they could improve the controls a little bit, that would be great. But I love the parkour, and I love the running around and stabbing people in the neck. That's fantastic. It's just the controls are stupid, and if I, rescue someone and they're supposed to show up in my village, it would be great if they actually did.
Okay. So I would consider Assassin's Creed 4 now a fairly polished experience, even on next
Okay.
gen consoles. So would you be willing to play it now?
You know, I may, like I said, I'm definitely going to play it at some point.
Okay.
I just don't feel the pressing need, like I've got to run out and get it.
But that's fair, and I understand where you're coming from. Where you said, let it lay for a while, let it lie. They're not going to do that. It's an annual
No,
franchise.
they're not. They're not going to.
They make
I know.
filthy,
I hold
dirty lucre.
I hold no thoughts that they actually will follow my advice, because they make far too much money from people who don't care if the game is broken.
Well, I'll get off Andrew's back, but Jeff, I'm still on your back, and here's why I say that is because I feel like I didn't play 3. I played a good amount of the other ones, but I feel like 4 finally did away with a lot of the people's complaints. I mean, they got away from Ezio. They got away from the pouty Native American guy, who the hell he was, and I guess he's Kenway. And then they brought in Edward Kenway, and he's cool, and it's not flashback. It's not necessarily flashback. Sure, you've got the Animus crap, and you've got the ancient civilization crap, which I don't like either. But yeah, I think my biggest turnoff, honestly, for the Assassin's Creed games is when Assassin's Creed 1 first launched, when it was first announced, they didn't show anything of Desmond Miles. They didn't show anything about an Animus, nothing about all this stuff. It was you were an assassin during the early to Middle Ages in the Crusade, in Jerusalem, and you were going to kill Templars, and that was cool. It was a period piece. I was an excited history major at the time. Now I'm a disappointed history graduate because it didn't focus on what I wanted it to focus on. Now I feel like finally with Assassin's Creed 4, it's a little bit better. Take all that other science fiction garbage out of Assassin's Creed. I think you'll have a good game. Take it and make it not an annualized franchise, which they'll never do. Like Andrew said, I think you'll have a better game. Now, one thing I will point out, though, and it just dawned on me, they do have multiple teams working on these games. So whereas we are getting an Assassin's Creed every year, it seems like we're drinking from the fire hose. Realistically, they're probably only putting out a new game from each studio, every other year?
No, actually, I've been really confused by this personally, but I think that they've got like 6 or 8 studios working on it, and they have, I think, 2/3 of them are working on each game. So as soon as they finish whatever they're doing on 3, they go to 4, and as soon as they finish 4, they go to Unity or whatever the new one is called. But I mean, they only have like 15,000 people working on that, and I don't think that number is actually an exaggeration. I think it's actually like 15,000 people.
So in other words, when you finally do get to the end of an Assassin's Creed game, just go make yourself a sandwich.
Yeah.
Enjoy
enjoy the hour-long credits. But Kenny, I think you're right. I really loved the jumping through different points in time, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to see them explore more of. Let's see the parts of history that don't get video games, the Crusades and the American Revolution and the French Revolution and Renaissance Italy. They just hung out in the Renaissance for a really long time.
They did. They rode Ezio hard and put him away wet. Let me tell you.
Well, yeah. But I think that if they can keep that kind of moving around and let's see different places or different aspects of places, as much as I'm reluctant to admit it, seeing an Assassin's Creed set in World War II would be an interesting take on what we see a lot of. So that could be interesting as long as they do it right. I disagree with you a little bit on the sci-fi bit. I think that you said to get rid of the sci-fi garbage.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I think that they should get rid of the sci-fi garbage and leave the sci-fi. I'm okay with the sci-fi, just don't make it so garbagey. There's the Animus I'm okay with. The weird civilization just got a little bit too weird and too pervasive. for my liking, but just tone it down a little bit and leave it at kind of a little bit more grounded level, and I think that it would do a lot for the franchise.
I agree with the groundedness.
Man, it looks like they've got a roadmap to greatness. They
Yeah,
just got to
absolutely.
listen. Just got to listen to.
Absolutely.
Just got to listen to 150, and they'll have the roadmap.
You know who doesn't have a roadmap to greatness? The team that's developing the new Tomb Raider. Greatness does not await at their final destination.
Poor Crystal Dynamics. I don't know. That may have been one of those decisions that were made out of their hands, and they were told, "Oh, by the way."
Oh, they were totally told. They were, and I guarantee you that somebody, when the Squeenix representative left, the boardroom doors shut, and they all leaned back, and they were like they were pissed about the last iteration. They're gonna be. We're all bad. We should just look for a new job.
Man, oh man.
Anyway,
yeah.
Look at that. Enough of that Tomb Raider horse.
Andrew, I didn't want to cut you short. Do you have a game or a series that you want changed up?
Well, Jeff, you actually chose mine, so thanks for that. But the other franchise that immediately sprung to my mind was the God of War franchise. I'm not sure if you guys have played much of those. Jeff, I don't think you've played any of them. But it's basically a giant muscle who is just roid raging on everything, and blood is everywhere, and there's sex everywhere, and then the giant muscle squishes a guy's head like a grape, and that's the end. And it was fun once or twice. As
long as God of War 3 was one of those times.
Yeah, I think that they've kind of they've played that note, and I think that they need to really find a way to differentiate or do a little bit of character development or something to actually make that series a little bit more compelling. I think that Kratos, it's such a flat character. There's just nothing going on there, and they need to find a way. It's got really good gameplay if you're into that kind of like combo driving action kind of game. It's really good. It's solid gameplay, but after playing a couple of those games, you kind of start to feel bad about yourself as a person because of this giant rage monster that you're pretending to be for hours at a time. So I would like to see some kind of subtlety come to the character of Kratos and actually get a little bit of nuance to some of the story elements. I think that could actually help the series out a lot.
But could you? Could you take? Well, I guess I tell you who you could sub Kratos out for: Nathan Drake. He kills millions of people and doesn't bat an eye, right?
Yeah.
But really, could you take Kratos and substitute Joel, or could you take Kratos? Kratos is a giant jerk. Kratos is a jerk.
Sure.
And that's not even the best word to describe him. But and he's so 2D. He's just like anger incarnate. And he's an unlikable character, but the games just play well. I just don't think you could have any character development where Kratos suddenly grows a heart 3 times, the size of 10 Grinches plus 2, and then still just go and rip out Centaur's guts, and then squish, a head and slaughter this. It just doesn't work. I don't know how it works.
In pretty much every video game, you are mass slaughtering people. Let's look at Tomb Raider, for example.
Well, at least they were jerks. They were the jerks, though.
Yeah. Well, Lara Croft, in the reboot, she kills a guy who was about to sexually assault her, and she's so distraught by this. She actually ends up like vomiting and getting sick. And then about 20 minutes later, her body count has gone from 1 to like 35.
Oh, yeah.
And she is completely unfazed. It's just one of the things that come with video games. You expect to be mass murdering people. That's the reason why Nathan Drake can make quippy jokes, and it's okay, despite the fact that he's killed 250 people in the last day and a half. I mean, he has killed more people in a 48-hour period than live in my wife's hometown. But that's okay, because it's a video game. With Kratos, there is a way to get subtlety and nuance and character development in there and have it be okay, just due to the nature of video games be video games. But you actually have to, do a little bit more forethought rather than just, hey, what really cool items can we give Kratos? Now how can we murder the gods for him to get those items? And that's pretty much the extent of the story development they put in. A little bit of subtlety goes a long way, and I think they can find a way to incorporate it if they just bother. Hey, we've got a new guest on the show.
Yeah. If you're not watching, I'm putting my dog up on the camera right now. This is Slink. He is he's the new official mascot. I'm naming it now. If you host the show, you get to have your own mascot. So he is a dachshund, and he's ready to go to sleep. That's what he's ready to do. Well, I agree with Kenny. I don't know if you can change up God of War. I don't know if that can happen. But hey, you never know. He could grow a heart. How the God of War stole Christmas.
There are more creative minds than us at work.
Let me tell you this. With Kratos as he currently is, I wouldn't touch him with a 39.5-foot pole.
Let me tell you this. Basically, God of War technical prowess with God of War gameplay, but in the Naughty Bear world. I would buy that so fast. I would literally run to my local GameStop barefoot right now. I wouldn't even get in my car. My keys are behind me. I wouldn't even look behind me to get them. I'd just run to them.
Well, it looks like we've set out a roadmap for 3 franchises to fix it all.
They better be listening.
Yeah, man. If they don't, it's their loss.
I look forward to the commission check on my desk.
Yeah, let me know when you get yours, because I'll be looking for mine soon. Well, I can't believe it. 150 episodes. That is something really special, and I don't think enough can be said about Joe Barhoum, who's kept it going for so long. And if you don't know who Joe is, he is, as many of us call him, the man who pays the bills for Geeks with Wives. And so...
Just not our bills.
Yeah, just not our bills. But, you can't do it all. And so we definitely want to give a shout-out to Joe real quick and just say thank you, Joe, for all that you've done for the website and providing for us a place to talk video games and with our friends and grow a community. So, and we definitely appreciate you guys listening to the show. Instead of our final thoughts tonight, we're going to talk about our favorite memories from Geeks with Wives. And so, Kenny, Vice Presidente, what is your favorite memory from Geeks with Wives?
So, I've been thinking about this, and there isn't really any particular moment that stands out in my mind. Besides last week's show, but I'll get back to that in a minute. So the whole experience has been interesting to me and very rewarding. I came on to argue BioShock Infinite's merits with Joe. I found the show after Colin Moriarty had been on the show the first time back in March of a couple years ago now, I guess, maybe.
2013.
I guess so, last year, okay.
Yeah.
And and I just kind of, I fell in, and I've seen people come, I've seen people go. You guys have come, and I hope you stick around, longer. I'm glad you have. And I say that like I'm talking like I'm an old man, but I mean, that's the beauty of Geeks with Wives, is that we're a community of gamers who come together to discuss video games. And like, I hate Andrew, but I still come on the show and I talk to him all the time. No, I'm joking. I don't hate Andrew, but I think that honestly, one of my favorite memories is going to be. I say that because it's still pretty new in my mind. Last week, I came on the show because I followed Colin Moriarty on Twitter and Greg Miller and the whole Podcast Beyond idea. That's really my first podcast that I got deep into, and so when he came on the show, I thought it was pretty cool. And then eventually, a year later, there I am sitting with Colin Moriarty and Ariana, Joe's baby, starts crying, and so Joe leaves the call, and we're about ready to go live here in like 20 minutes, and Joe's like, just entertain Colin, and Colin comes on, and it's just me and Colin. I'm like, what's up, Colin? and the best part about it is he was like, what's up back? Like, here's this guy who knows what people think of him, and same with Greg Miller. When I've had interactions with him, and they're really down to earth people. They really are. And I guess not necessarily my idol, but I follow them more than I follow most actors or musicians. And so I respect what they say, and so it was really cool to kind of meet those people. Through Geeks with Wives, we've met so many different people through Geeks with Wives, and I look forward to who we are going to introduce ourselves to in the future. So that's kind of my shtick, I guess.
I love it. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Andrew, what is your favorite memory?
Well, much like Kenny, I actually found Geeks with Wives through Podcast Beyond and Colin's guest appearance on here a little over a year ago. And I listened for a while, and then I heard, I think, Joe and Kenny, maybe somebody else, getting into arguments about The Last of Us and whether or not Joel was a figure to be admired or otherwise. And so as I'm driving in my car listening to the podcast, I get all riled up. And so when I got home...
Like the listener are right now.
Yes. When I got home, I tweeted Joe and said, hey, I want to write something for the site and explain my views on Joel. And Joe said, absolutely, do it. And Joe was incredibly welcoming and excited about giving me the opportunity to share my experience or my view, and I think that that's a great representation of what Geeks with Wives actually represents, which is a forum for all of us, whether we're geeks or wives or a geek without a wife, who knows, to come and talk about what it is that gets us excited, what our hobbies are, and give us that opportunity to go on one of Kenny's famous rants. And I think that spirit and that embodiment is a really great representation of Geeks with Wives. So I think that is my favorite memory, just because that was the first time it was really exposed. This philosophy was really exposed to me. So that is my favorite moment.
I love it. And just to top that off, your point, I don't think Joel is a good role model at all. No, I'm kind of right there with you, Andrew. My favorite memory was, I think I'd been writing for the site for a couple of months, and I did a review for Bravely Default, and like the review got posted, and it got tweeted out by the Geeks with Wives handle, And then, like, out of nowhere, I got, like, all of these replies, from people that had read the review and, like, either agreed or disagreed. And I just thought it was awesome because that's exactly why I wanted to contribute, was because I wanted to be able to interact with people that I would really never have the opportunity to interact with, even though they're not, big names in the industry, but they're just people like me and you and Kenny. And that's what I wanted, more than anything by contributing, and that's exactly what I got. And so I think that's probably my favorite memory because I knew, like, all right, this is exactly where I want to be. This is, this is the community I want to be a part of. And so, yeah, that's my favorite memory for me. And so with that being said, if you are a part of the Geeks with Wives community, we definitely appreciate it that you watch the show. And you can always download the show every Friday. You can watch it live every Tuesday, like you would be doing now. And you can follow us at Geeks with Wives. You keep up with all of our questions, always asking interesting questions to get your opinion on what you're playing, or what you think of the different news that's going on in the industry. Just real quick, I want to give you guys a chance to mention your Twitter handles. Andrew, where can we find you at on Twitter?
You can find me at acbarton08.
Sweet. And Kenny, where can we find you at?
At Ken Newville.
We thank you guys for being on the show tonight. Thank you, Kenny and Andrew. Appreciate it.
You don't need to thank regulars.
Yes, and that's what I was going to get to, is that part of 150 is just a little bit of an announcement that the three of us will be your regulars. So I hope you like that. I hope that that's good news for you.
If you don't, tweet at Geeks with Wives, and you have a voice. You can vote us.
Tweet at Geeks with Wives, and we will replace one of us.
Please. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I'm looking forward to it, guys. I'm looking forward to it. I've talked about having a little bit of continuity for a long time now, and I think this might be good.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm so pumped that I'm about to go to sleep.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, we're all in Central Time Zone, right?
It is rapidly approaching midnight.
Yeah, all those jerks off on the West Coast, they're like, oh, you can record at 8 o'clock. BS, it's 11:40 here. We almost had a 2-hour show. Jeff, end the show. End it, Jeff. I want to go to sleep.
I know. That's what I'm doing right now. Once again, we thank you for listening to the Geeks with Wives podcast. We will see you next week as we begin our journey towards 200. We thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.